Hi YouTube, this is Bernard and Adrian. We're doing our 4th episode, and I think it's going to deal with my meeting my wife and her abilities. Strange.
Hi YouTube. So Bernard, share with me and the viewers about your wife named Dolly
Mm-hmm.
and how you guys met and the abilities that she possessed
Mm-hmm.
and what you learned from her and just the overall experience of your marriage and up to the end.
Mm-hmm. Well, I had a singing, well, I still have a voice to sing. I sang a little bit. And when I was growing up, we used to sing on the corners. We used to have like a quartet or a quintet. But I was kind of shy, and I shied away from it while the other guys formed a quartet. And they one day saw me sitting on the stoop, and they was going to a studio. And they say, "Hey, Red, come on, let's go down, come on down to the studio. They have a good teacher, voice teacher down there." I went there with them, and I met the voice teacher. The guys, they went to a piano player who was going to teach them how to sing in harmonies and things like that with a quartet. I was introduced to the teacher, and the teacher took me to the piano board, to the piano, and had me stand up there, and he ran me through some exercises like na, nay, ni. He was testing my voice. After a certain period of time, he said, "Okay, you're a tenor." He said, "I'll take you. If you want to be my student, I'll take you." And I became his student. I used to go there, I think, once a week to the studio. And eventually, I moved from where I was living to an apartment above the studio. The studio was underneath. He had another apartment above it. And he had 2 rooms that he had rented out. At the time, they were rented. One person who had the room was a songwriter. He wrote a song, and I think it was presented to Johnny Mathis, and it made a big hit. So he eventually moved out, and I quickly took that room. At the time, I was working for the post office. And every time I would leave, I would always tell my teacher, his last name was Hall, too.
Oh, what a coincidence.
Yeah, I'd say, "Mr. Hall, I'm taking off, I'm going to work." So he would know, because it was in the evening. He would know, if he looked for me, he knew I wasn't there, Well, one day, he was up in his apartment. He wasn't down in the studio, and he was in the front, sitting at a table with 3 other people. And I walked down the hall, because I was getting ready to go to work. And I said, "Mr. Hall, I'm taking off. I'm going to work." So he said, "Okay." He said, he told somebody, a lady who had her back to me, sitting at the table. He was playing cards. They played cards. This lady had her back to me, and he told her, he said, "Oh, you haven't met my new tenant." And she turned around, and I said hi, and she said hi, and I turned around and walked down the hall, get ready to go to work. I heard a little laughter from the crowd. I didn't know what it was about from the group. Well, eventually, over a period of time, I saw her quite often there, because she studied with that voice teacher too. But she was a singer with the big band. The big band was called Erskine Hawkins, big band. And we started hitting it off, and we started going together. She knew of my interest in the things, from the things that I talked about, like my experiences. She eventually, over a period of time, handed me a little booklet saying, "Here, you might find this interesting." And I looked at it, and it said, "The Mastery of Life." That was the title of it. It was a small book, about so big. And it was an introduction to the order that I'm now in.
How many years now?
52 years. I've started my 53rd year, I think, now.
Oh.
53rd year.
Congratulations.
Thanks. I didn't know during the time that I was going with her that she was a member of anything. She never said anything. She just knew my interest, and she handed me this saying, "You might find this interesting." I read it. It was an introduction to this order and its history, the things that it taught. It even showed out in San Jose, California, the structure. They had a fairly large real estate there. They had an administration building, museum, planetarium, and things like all the Egyptian designs. They showed that in the booklet. After I read that part and I got to the rear of it, it said it was a questionnaire. If you wanted to, become a member of this, you had to fill out this questionnaire. Well, I decided I would like, to join it. It sounded interesting. I filled it out, told them why I wanted to become a member, explained all the things that I had been through and things like that. And I sent it in. I sent it with a fee, what you call in membership fee or something like that. And it said that if you're not accepted, that they will send it back and tell you why you weren't accepted, and the money will come back to you. And I found that to be true. But that didn't happen with me. I was accepted.
That's good.
But eventually, I moved. This was in 1961. I moved from the studio to my wife's apartment because she lived in Brooklyn. 93 6th Avenue, not too far from Flatbush. In 1963, we were married. Oh, yeah, okay, I missed it. I thought I missed something. In 63, we went to the Brooklyn courthouse to be married. My voice teacher was the person who gave her away, right? When everything was said and done, we were married.
How old were you and how old was she?
She was 8 years. She was about 8.5 years my senior. At the time, I was about, I was in my 20s, I think. Yeah, I was in my 20s. Yeah, I was still in my 20s.
Okay.
And I still, once a week, I would go to I'd go to the studio to take my voice lessons. When I went after we were married, my voice teacher told me, he said, remember the first day you all were introduced? I said, yes, I remember. He said, when you walked away and she turned back to us, she said, that's the man I'm going to marry. And that's why they laughed. They said, Dolly, why did you say something like that? But she was unusual. she was unusual.
Are you gonna tell us more about
oh yes,
unusual
I'm gonna tell you some more. I found out that she had the ability, like if you were wearing a ring, and she didn't do it for money, she did for somebody knew she had capability. They say, Dolly, hold a ring for somebody. I forgot how they found out. If they brought a friend with them, to visit. And she would sit down, and she always in her right hand. She would take the ring from a person, put it in her hand, and close it up like this. She closed her eyes, and she would see, from what I later learned, a stream of events of that person's life from the time that they were born up to the present. And after everything was said and done, they would say, Dolly, how do you do this? How do you do that?
Like a psychic vision of...
Yes, and I eventually asked her, I said, what do you see? How do you see this? She said, when she sits down, she closes her eyes, it's like the flipping of page, like events. Like pages moving of events. You see events happening. Eventually it got better than that as time went on. And I used to test her. I wanted to see. I wanted to, well, I just tested her. I would bring things home. I remember when I was working, I brought some chocolate home one time, and I had it in a bigger bag. And I said, Dolly, tell me what's in this bag. And she was about to feel. I said, no, don't feel, don't do this. Just touch the top of the bag, hold on to it, and tell me what's in it. And she stopped, and she's going, chocolates. I said, yes, right? But I found out she could even do more than that. I found out that she was capable of sitting down and projecting what we would say is our consciousness right here, right here. She could project that consciousness to a distant point. And I was a witness to it later on, but I won't explain that right now. But she did it one time where we were doing something and a man saw her. We only knew these people for about maybe 3 hours. We visited a friend. I don't want to go into all of it. But that man saw her. And she was also, but what I'm going to say, we all have these abilities, not something special to her. She just had it developed more so than most people. She was capable of becoming invisible, but she didn't know it. I was a witness to it. Something happened and I didn't see her. And I knew she was in the kitchen, supposed to be in the kitchen. Because I walked into the kitchen looking for her, and I didn't see her, and I walked out.
Tell us the story.
How it all began?
Yes.
I didn't want to take too much on. I had a dog named Champ, my first dog. I got him when he was 6 weeks old. And I used to take him to the park. We hung out all the time, whenever we could. And we were living in Queens Village in a two-family house. One family converted into a two-family. And we had the upper level. And the upper level had, when you walked up the steps, you had a bathroom that you see first. When you moved to the left, there was a room that had been converted into a kitchen. When you walked down the hall, down the front, the little thing, the next door would be a little door that went up to the attic. The next door was a small room. When you went all the way to the front, which would have been, for the people who owned the house, would have been the master bedroom. That's the one that we had, because they had the downstairs. They were friends of ours. One day, I'm sitting in the front, where I could see the little hall, like, down to where the kitchen was. And my dog, I'm sitting, I think I was watching something on TV. My dog came, he was about 7 years of age then. He came and he sat down and he said, "Woof, woof." And I said, "What do you want? You want a bone?" And he, "Woof, woof." I said, "Well, go tell Mom, go tell Mom, you want a bone." He walked down the hall, went to the kitchen and barked, and came back and barked at me. And I said, "What, she didn't give you no bone?" I said, "Oh, gee." So I got up and we were walking down the hall. The dog was following me. We went down, I went into the kitchen where she was. And I didn't see her. So I thought she was hiding in a closet. The door was slightly cracked. That's where we had our pots and pans. Normally it would have been a closet for, if it was stayed a room, it would have been a closet for hanging clothes. I went there and looked and didn't see her, and turned around and walked back out of the kitchen to where the bathroom was. Because she wasn't there. She wasn't in the kitchen. Went into the bathroom, pulled back the little shower curtain, and she wasn't there. And I said, "Where the hell's Dot? Where's she at?" And I went to the little doorway where you go up in the attic, and I'm looking up in the attic, and all of a sudden, she steps out of the kitchen some halfway, like, looking at me and said, "What are you doing? Playing games with the dog?" I said, "No, where were you?" She said, "I'm standing there right by the sink." When I walked in, the sink was to the right side. And I walked past because I didn't see her. I said, "No, where were you?" She said, "I'm standing there right by the sink." She said, "I thought you were playing a game with the dog. I saw you walk in, the dog followed you over to the closet, and I thought you were playing a game, then you walked back out." So I had, like I said, being a student of certain things.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Maybe the viewers will be curious.
Mm.
When you walked past her in the kitchen,
Mm.
if she was standing there in the kitchen, do you believe that you walked? I mean, if she was invisible, that you went through her?
No.
Not without even knowing she was there.
No,
or did you go around her?
She was off to the side. When I went into the kitchen, the sink was over here to the right of the door. So she said she was standing right there.
Okay.
That's what she was doing, the dishes, doing something there. And I didn't see her, but I knew from my studies that we all have the ability of what we call the great masters, Jesus and Buddha and all of them. We all can attain that. Even Jesus said, "There will be others that can do the same thing that I can do and even greater." We all have this ability, but they were highly advanced. They were capable, from what I studied, of creating an energy field around them to become invisible to people. Evidently, when I asked my wife, I said, "What were you thinking when I was coming down the hall?" She said, "Oh, I wish I could hide." Because she knew she was supposed to give the dog a biscuit. I had to get up and come down there. And she just stood there. And evidently, when she thought this, she created an energy field around. Now, you may find this unbelievable, but our scientists are now doing this. They're able to bend light waves around an object to where you can't see it. Now, I know this. I studied it, and eventually I had a demonstration of it with her not knowing that she did this.
I know you told me a story once where she did it on the Long Island Railroad.
Oh, yes. She suffered with claustrophobia, and she could not handle. If you take a shower, she could not have water over her head because she couldn't seem to catch her breath. And I tried to show her how to do it. I said, "Well, hold your head down, let the water run over your head with the way it's not coming down your face." And even though she would do that, she couldn't catch her breath. She would start to like this. I came to the conclusion after seeing her abilities that somewhere in her past, because you don't get these things just like that. You have to earn it. When you see a prodigy playing a piano, like I've seen this kid on thing, he was playing like a great pianist. You don't get that from nothing. You get it. You earn it from your past experience and what you have done in your past life. You carry it over. She evidently had these abilities in the past, and something happened to her during the time of what you call witches, where the people who had certain psychic ability were considered having the evil eye, or having an ability that was sort of like the devil they once supposed to have, and they would drown them or dunk them or burn their eyes out. But I like I said, what happened was she suffered with clothes. She couldn't ride the subways. She worked in Manhattan at what you call social services around 32nd Street near 8th Avenue. Social services. Child Welfare Bureau, social services. And when she go to work, she always had to take the Long Island Railroad. It only time went inside when it got close to Manhattan, was going into the station. Well, she came home one day, and she said, "I think that happened to me again." I said, "What?" She said, "I think I became invisible." I said, "Well, what happened?" She said she was leaving the job, getting ready to come home, and she was down on the station waiting for the train to come in. And she was standing where when the train stopped, she could walk up the steps and go into the train. At car's length, at where the other entrance would be, there was about 3 or 4 men. She was by herself. And one of the men left the crowd of people and was walking towards her. And she got the impression that it's like if we have 3 or 4 guys and one guy is sort of like single, and you see a nice looking lady, "Hey man, go talk to her. Look at her, she by herself, go talk." Well, that guy left, but something she did, and he turned around and went back. I'm not going to explain that. But eventually when the train came in, they got in. She got onto the train. She came to her, went there and sat down at the seat near the aisle. Some man came and sat near the window, other people that got on. The train started to moving, and she was sitting there. She was just sitting. With a ticket. She had a ticket in her hand. And she heard a little commotion, and she looked back, and she saw the guys between the train, right where the door, the glasses, she could see the guys there. She thought they was going to come through, and she was there, so she said she slumped down in the chair a little bit, just not to be bothered. Maybe they might not see her. But they didn't come through. But the ticket man went over here, got a ticket from this man, a person, how do you do it? Ticket, and you come back over here and make sure you get people. And came to her, and she was holding a ticket up like this for the man, and he reached over and clipped the ticket of the man sitting by the window, and then went off. She said she was about to say something. She said, "No, he'll probably come back." Well, when they got to the first stop, the guys got off of the train, so she relaxed. When the train started moving again, people get on, so the guy has to go recheck to make sure if anybody's saying that he didn't miss tickets where they might have gotten on at this station. He came, and she held up a ticket to him, and he looked at it. He said, "Miss, where did you get on at?" How did she tell me? "Where did you get on at?" She said, "I got on at the end of the station when it came into the terminal." He said, "Where were you sitting?" She said, "I was sitting right here." She said, "Miss, nobody was sitting here." And she couldn't convince her. She said, "Nobody was sitting here." So she thinks something else.
And then the man was sitting by the window.
Yeah, the man with the window. He didn't say anything.
He didn't say.
No, he didn't say anything. But these experiences that I've had, I mean, I studied some things pertaining to this ability, but I would have never known had I not seen what she was capable of doing. I had 4 out-of-body experiences eventually, and I know now there's no such thing as death. But she passed. You want me to go join and finish this? Okay.
Well, I wanted to ask you about your friend Don
Oh,
Jurgensen.
yes, okay.
Who has the UFO organization in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
And he sent you a sample of Bigfoot's hair.
Yeah.
You can share that story with our viewers.
The friend that went into Korea with me, like I said, when he came back, he moved to Columbus, Ohio, and became the head of a UFO organization because of his UFO experiences. I did not know until he told me that his organization, did a little tracking of Bigfoot if they heard that he had been in a certain vicinity and they could travel that far. It wasn't too far from them. Well, he called me one day. He knew about my wife's ability. He called me one day. He said, Red. That's what he called me, Red. He said, look, I'm going to send you, I forget how he said it, I'm going to send you a hair of Bigfoot. And he went on to explain that his organization got word somewhere in Columbus, I don't know how far away it was from him, that there was a sighting said to have been of Bigfoot. And he and some of his group went to this area and they found footprints of this so-called Bigfoot. He said, I'm going to send you a hair. I picked up a hair. I'm going to send you a hair. He said, I want you to let Dolly hold this. He said, don't tell her what it is. Excuse me. Eventually, a couple of days came and a letter came. He sent to me, and he had an advertisement in it, along with what the news, the Columbus Dispatch, was, asking him questions because he was becoming known now. And I saw this piece of paper, like a piece of paper with a Scotch tape with a hair stuck to it. Well, when my wife came home and got relaxed, I said, Dolly, I want you to hold something for me. She sat down and got relaxed, and I had me a pencil and a piece of paper. And I said, close your eyes. And she closed her eyes. I put this hair in her hand. I closed it up like this, and I sat down alongside of her. And it took some while. Usually she gets things pretty quickly. I didn't think she was going to get anything for a while. And then all of a sudden she says, I'm in a forest. I'm in the woods somewhere. I see all these trees. She said, I'm looking out and I see a body of water. I see what look like a canoe with two people who look like rangers. They had these funny looking hats, little hats with the wide brim around it. And they were looking in the direction that she was in these woods. She said, why are they looking for me? Why are they... She came up with some odd words. Who am I? Why are they looking? Why are they bothering me? Why are they looking for me? Oh, and then she said she heard a noise. And it was, for her, when she was holding it, was coming almost unbearable. I thought she was going to stop. I said, no, hold on, maybe it'll go away. She said she also sees a light above her. She said, I must hide. I must hide. Where can I go? She eventually moved from what I don't remember every bit of it. I got that letter somewhere. I wish I could find it. She said, I must hide. And she said, why did I leave my kind? She said, we're not of them. She said, we come in season. We eat of nature's food. We're clothed by nature. Then she went into a cave. Now, I might have the sequence a little bit off, but she went into a cave, hiding from whoever she felt was looking for her. When she went into this cave, she was saying she was surprised that she could see it so easily. See, in this cave that was dark, she could see clearly. She saw a little some animal scurry past. She described something like steps, what she thought looked like steps. She said, we come in season, we come from the Antarctica. I didn't know what the Antarctica was. I didn't know whether it was a cold area or a hot area. I don't know. I didn't know what Antarctica was. And she always stopped and paused for me. She'd say, what am I? Who am I? She didn't seem to understand what she was.
What were you feeling writing this down and knowing what it was that Don had sent to you? Mm-hmm. And her not knowing and being able to tell you this. I don't know what it was. I was just writing things down. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I felt at the time. But it was strange that this was supposed to be some creature and it's in the woods and she sees us and she doesn't know who she is. And then, like she says, we're clothed by nature. And we eat of nature's food. We come in season, we come from the Antarctica. Well, I don't know what else. What else did she say? I know you told me that she still was hearing the noise.
Oh, this was after everything was finished.
Yeah. After
everything was said and done, she went into the kitchen.
I'm writing fast, so I'm trying to make sure everything's right. I'm trying to straighten out things that I've written down. And she says, I hear that noise again. So I said, oh, maybe something's going on. I heard a helicopter come over the building, of the house that not a building, but the house that we were living in, the two-family. A helicopter went around about us. I said, oh, that's probably what she saw. Whoever saw Bigfoot and said the area that this person was in, or this thing was in, they were searching for it. They were searching for it. But I wrote another thing down. I called my friend in Columbus, Ohio, and I told him everything that I had written down. I didn't send it to him. I just told him everything. I guess he must have somehow got it down.
What was his reaction?
Oh, I didn't know his reaction at the time, right? But I don't know, it was several days later he called. He said they found a cave. They were in the area and they found this cave. He said what she saw was not steps. It was like somewhere in a cave, some water comes in and it runs out. Right? He said over a period of time, wherever this water was running, it made grooves, like going down, like, and it looked like naturally to her, it might look like steps. But what else did he say? But he was amazed. He was amazed, and I was amazed, especially when he talked about the cave, because she mentioned it. But she was something.
So, for our viewers that are probably wondering, that since Dolly has these abilities, she can take an object and, even though it was Bigfoot's hair, part of his body, his or her, whatever the creature.
Yeah, well, she said it was a female.
It was a female,
yeah,
okay.
She felt it was a female.
That she was able to see through the eyes of this creature, Bigfoot.
Go ahead. I get tight jaw here.
Okay.
Trumpet.
So try to explain to the viewers a little more about her being able to see, I guess you could say, a certain lifeline of someone through an object or part of their body, like the hair.
Everything that we experience in life, we might look as being past and gone, but it's not. There is a stream that captures everything that we have been through. It's like, for instance, if you have the Empire State Building with an antenna sending off pictures that we capture with our television sets, portable television. Imagine going into a field with a television set, a portable TV, or a portable radio. You sit there and you sit there for a moment. You don't hear anything. You might hear the birds tweaking and things like that. But you don't hear any sounds or you don't see any colors. But these things are all around us. What happens when you turn on that TV? You see pictures, colors, you hear sounds, and all kinds of things. Where does it come from? It doesn't come from nothing. It's all around us. But it changes. Once it leaves that antenna, it changes its frequency. That portable TV or portable radio, when you turn it on, it has certain things in it that slows up the rates. So it's for our eyesight may be from here to here. Anything above it, we can't see it with our physical eyes, even though it's there. Well, with what they call, you can look it up. She seemed to have had an active pineal gland. The pineal gland is called the third eye. When it's active and developed, you're able to sense and see things beyond the physical range. This is what she was capable of doing. But that's...
Yeah, we all have this ability.
We all have. It's just, we have to
develop it.
We have to develop. We have to get into a study.
And tune it.
And have it develop. We have the pineal, the thyroid, not the thyroid, the pituitary, the thyroid. All these glands are like tubes in a radio. They're not operating properly. So we can't express the divine within ourselves. This divine within ourselves is not a separate part of our Creator. It is the Creator within ourselves. But we have to develop it to express it. Just like I said, you can have two portable TVs. That sound is coming from that thing. It's perfect. One captures it perfect. One doesn't. They examine it and say, oh, the tubes in here are not good. So it's not receiving it and expressing it like it should. That's the way we are. We're not developed like we should be.
Now with Dolly being 8 years your senior, she got older and had health issues and...
Yeah. She was 81 when she passed, and that was in 2000. Well, I don't like using even the word pass now. I say crossed over to the other side, because we don't die, and I know this. And I get tired of these other systems telling you, "Oh, you're dead, you're dead. You're gonna come back in the end of time and come out the grave and all that." There's a lot of junk.
You only live once.
You only live once and stuff. You're gonna live a whole. You don't. You live on and live on. And as you get better in your expression of divine self, you move up the ladder. What was that? Oh, she crossed over the other side in 2008, March of 2008.
And she paid you a visit?
Yeah, but before that happened, about 5 or 6 years before she crossed over, she had him right here in this house. I was sitting at the kitchen table. She told me, she said, something's wrong. I think I might have had a mild stroke. So I took her to the hospital near Queens Boulevard. I forget what they call it. They changed the name now. When I took her there, they had to keep her for 3 days for observation and tests. So I left, and this was during the winter, right in this same house, right here. I left and came home. Usually when we sleep at night, during the winter time, when we go into the room, we close the bedroom door and open up the windows, let that cold air come in. But we don't want the whole house to get cold, otherwise the heat comes on. Well, when she was in the hospital, I was in bed, and I got up around 4:45 in the morning to go to the bathroom. Did what I had to do, came back into the room, this was the cold winter time, and closed the door like I'd normally do, got into the bed right close to the door, and all of a sudden, when I got into bed, as soon as I got into bed, it felt like the door opened, like I hadn't closed it securely. And it shocked me because I felt an energy come through the door. And I said, "Oh, that's Dolly." Now, I didn't see anything. I felt an energy come through the door. And it went down the side of the bed, normally like she would do, because she slept on the other side. When it got down a certain point, it went away. I think I went to sleep. Now, I don't remember. But that same day, I went to visit her at the hospital. Went up to a certain level. We got together. She was sitting on the bed, and I'm sitting in the chair. And we were talking. I said, "Dolly," I said, "Oh, by the way, did you do anything around 4:45 in the morning?" She said, "Yes, I projected home." She had this ability. She was amazing. But I'm glad she did, because that was the first time I've experienced that. So I tell people now, I don't care. To me, it's not important what a person believes. It means to some degree. But it's more important what a person knows. And most people don't know enough. They only believe what somebody tells them without finding out for themselves. That's why we're having all the problems in the world. People have to think. Use your ability to reason. If somebody tells you something, don't accept it because they're wearing a robe and a hat and stuff like that. They have a degree. When I used to give a lecture on UFOs, I made sure I had a video to show the people, because I'm going to tell them of my experiences. Who am I? I'm Bernard. I'm not a PhD. I don't have no education, a big degree from Harvard or something like that. So when I say something, I want them to see what the astronauts say. But people don't do that. They accept something from somebody, and when something else comes along, because they have accepted this, they won't even look into this. And yet they don't even know if this is true or not. That's what's wrong with the world today. People have to wake up.
I believe that if there's something that you're looking into,